Hey, welcome to Fan Zone Live. Christian had to take a couple weeks off. He's had some family stuff going on, keeping him a little too busy. But I've got a great guest with us. A lot of you old school AFL fans will know Collin Taylor. Welcome, Collin. How you doing?
Scott, I'm very happy to be here, man. And I will do my best to replace Christian, man. He's one of a kind, so he's gonna be tough, but I'll try to fill at least a little bit of his shoes over the next, 45 minutes an hour, whatever we got
Uh,
here.
he's a heck of a character.
Yeah.
He's a tough one to fill for sure. So,
Yes, yes. Had a couple seasons with him in Cleveland. Played against him a few times when he was in Portland, and great guy. Again, just a dude I love keeping up with too, because he's got a lot of stuff going on, and it's been awesome to see where he's been. So I'm happy to kind of fill that role today.
so speaking of what's going on, what have you been up to? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, man. So it's been a while since we chatted. A lot's happened since 2019, since we won the championship out there in Albany, and but pre-COVID, but post-COVID, man, amazing things. I mean, my life now is better than it's ever been. Um, Moved out here to Cleveland, got engaged to the love of my life. We got married last August, so we're coming on first year of our marriage. Got a dog, which being a guy who was anti-animal for, traveling for 10 years for your job, you don't
Right.
really see where an animal can fit in your life. Um,
I've heard
and
some
so we,
stories about players bringing dogs and stuff to the apartments. Is never good.
it's never worked. It has never worked. It will never work. It's not the move. So I always thought, no, why would somebody do that? We got a dog a couple years ago, and I mean, he's just completely changed my life. So, now I'm still in sports. So I run a performance facility out of Cleveland, Ohio, called T3 Performance, and we're in Beechwood, Ohio, which is just east of Cleveland. And we're almost a year in, which is cool. So June 12th will be our 1 year, and it's been quite the journey. I've been in the fitness industry for 13 years. When I first got in, I thought, oh, it'd be so cool to run a gym, to own a gym. And then after a first year or two, I said, I never want to run a gym. And over the last year, it's been a little bit of that, right? It's been a little bit of, this is my dream job. This is the best thing ever. And then it's been, if I could quit today, I would, and so it keeps me accountable. I'm getting up early. I got a reason to get out of bed. Again, kiss my wife on the way out, and I'm at work around 5:30 or 6 o'clock most of the times in the morning. And, my ultimate goal is to, be able to give back and be able to help the athletes who I now see as 12, 13-year-old athletes who don't have any self-confidence, who, look down when they walk all the time, who, don't know how to speak to anybody of the opposite sex. And, just to see myself in all of these athletes. And I know for me, it was the weight room and it was football that, really helped me come into my own and figure out the type of person I was. And so I'm trying to do the best that I can, as building out a staff who all have the same beliefs and really care and want to give back and be able to help athletes, not only be the best athlete they can be and get to where they want to get ultimately as an athlete, but for me, my biggest goal is to help them become the best human being they can be. And in this first year, it's been quite a ride, and we got an amazing staff. I mean, the best staff now I could imagine ever putting together. And now I'm kind of to the point where I'm hands off a little bit. I'm helping our coaches. But takes up a lot of time. But yeah, man, focus is family over everything. Work comes there, somewhere down there, 2, 3, 4, something like
Right.
that. Yeah, man, everything's really good.
That's funny. You mentioned working with these kids and being, socially awkward or this and that. And the
Yeah.
first thing that came to mind was Cobra Kai. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
Cobra Kai.
I have not, but I'm a bit familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Lawrence starts up his own dojo, thinking he's going to get a bunch of badasses like him in there, and it's nothing but a bunch of goobers.
Yeah. Yeah. I could imagine. What was funny about starting a gym is like, you think that you can open a gym because you like working out
Mhm.
and other people like working out and want to work out with you. Right.
Mhm.
But it's not that. I mean, there's so much more to business than like, oh, this is a thing I like. Other people will like this. And that was I never had any experience in business. I train again. I was in the performance field for a decade before
Right.
this opportunity ever came up. So it's fun. It's been quite a learning experience. I mean, I've grown so much in a year. And I'm just excited to see where ultimately that this takes me and my family.
Yeah, I bet you from like a training perspective, hey, lift this, do that.
Yeah.
No big deal. You got that down. But
And you
from
can do it. I mean, you can go to Instagram and figure out how
Right.
to do that. That's no problem, you know?
But the
Um,
business side is a
yeah,
whole different ball game from
whole
just
different thing.
open up, turn on the lights, and let's run this place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, within the first month, actually, up until my wife and I went on our honeymoon, there was one full-time employee, which was hired, an
Mhm.
amazing guy who actually started as an intern and then ultimately ended up being in a management role, and he's been unbelievable. His name's Preston. But it was kind of like, oh, who's your social media guy? Me.
Mhm.
So who's the guy who takes care and cleans the bathrooms and figures everything out there? Well, okay, well, that's me. What who's your sales guy? Oh, that's me, right? And so it was just like we got to learn so much, and it was so fun and stressful. But
Mhm.
it's been good looking back on a year. We've grown so much, and I've grown so much as a person, and that's why you do it, right? Like it was one of
Oh
those
yeah.
things that I got put into the role, and I thought I have no business being in this position, and I think that's what I then realized was the challenge was, okay, if it was a lateral move, then I wouldn't learn and I wouldn't grow, but this is giving me an opportunity to do that. And again, I talk about my wife, man. I'll probably talk about my wife this whole time. She's been so supportive. She's been so incredible, helping us through this whole journey. Like I bounce ideas off of her and she's like, have you
Mhm.
tried this? I go, no, let's try that. And most of the time her ideas are way better than mine. So she's a great one to have in my corner.
That's why we keep them around, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So are you still doing some podcast work? I know you
Doing
had
some
that going.
podcasting. Yeah. So we've got the logo up here. So podcast is called Cutoffs and Coffee, and it's a performance podcast. And it started during COVID, where good friend of mine, we started having these conversations because everybody was willing to talk on the phone and over Zoom at the time. But we just wanted to get better personally. It was a bit selfish, like how do I become a better coach? Let me talk to coaches who are better than us. And
Right.
then it kind of expanded out of the performance world where we started having motivational speakers on. We started having mental performance coaches. We actually it would have been last year now at this time, we had a dog trainer on. But the idea is just we want to talk to people who are like the top level of their field and kind of pick their
Right.
brain and figure out what makes them function and what makes them elite. And I take something away from every single conversation we have. Had a conversation this morning with a wellness professional, a nutrition professional. Actually have a conversation tomorrow. So episode 63, we're shooting tomorrow, with a former Harlem Globetrotter, right? It's just
Nice.
like the connections we've made have been so fun. And then this weekend I'm going to a seminar in Cincinnati being hosted by two of the guys who we've had on the podcast. And it's a good opportunity to, network and connect in person and do all that kind of stuff. So that's been really fun. Yeah. Cutoffs and Coffee. It's everywhere you can hear it. And so if you're not sick of hearing my voice after this conversation, you guys can go check that stuff out.
So have you had any old AFL guys on there yet?
Man, we've had a couple
Foster, Coach
NFL
O, anybody?
guys. Yeah, we've had a couple NFL guys, which has been fun. And I've gotten the opportunity to meet some guys through, Christian does like the acting stuff as
Mhm.
well. And I've been doing stunts in major motion pictures for over
I say,
10 years
speaking
now.
of,
And
you were also doing some acting recently.
yeah.
That
So we've done a little bit of stuff. Yeah, and it's funny because my first, I think 8-10 roles were being a football player, and it's like, oh, I've
Mhm.
been preparing for this role for my entire, for
Right.
my entire life. So that was easy stuff. But yeah, we've done a little bit of that. So I've gotten to meet some really just unbelievable people through that. But we had Shane Austin. We had Shane Austin
Okay.
on again. One of my dear friends was a
Oh yeah.
groomsman at my wedding. He came on because he and his father are mental performance coaches, and
Mhm.
Shane, kind of funny story about that. When Shane and I were playing together in 2014, his dad would run our mental performance, like pregame mindfulness sessions that we would have.
Okay.
Well, in 2016, when he went to Portland and I was in Cleveland, I was still using either him or his dad as my mental performance coach. So the day before our game against Portland in Portland, I'm on the phone with the quarterback for the Portland Steel, putting me in, you know what I mean? Like through a mental performance training session. It was so funny. And he would work things in like, imagine yourself catching a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone. Not too many touchdowns, like one less touchdown than you need to win the game. And I'm like, Shane, I'm trying to focus here. But yeah, so he's been great. And again, I'm in touch with so many of those guys. Again, decent amount of them were in my wedding. Quentin Sims was actually our officiant. Quentin and his whole family have just been amazing for our family. And Malachi Jones was in the wedding. Two those right there, two of the greatest arena football players in my mind. I mean, that I've played with. Unbelievable guys. Again, amazing players. unbelievable guys, like one of a kind
Right.
human beings. And then Shane was in it, like I mentioned, then Chris Deeker,
Mhm.
good friend of
Mhm.
mine from the Cleveland in the Iowa days. So I'm connected with so many of those guys, man. And
Well, that's what
it,
this league's about.
and that's what I was going to say. That's
Yeah.
what this league is about: just bringing people together, and just building these long bonds that I know, like I will still have things in common with them, even when I no longer have things in common with my best friends from home. And so these guys, I know they'll always be in my corner, and vice versa.
Again, and that's why it was a no brainer to reach out to you, to reach out to Christian, to reach out to Coach James,
Yeah.
to come on this show, is because it's about those relationships, it's about those personalities, those people you get to know over the years. What you played for? What, 1 year on one of my teams?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think
you
yeah,
know,
two, maybe two I
maybe
spent in
2 in
Iowa.
Iowa. Yeah, it
Yeah. But
wasn't long though.
two great, two, I have unbelievable memories from those times too. Not even so much as a player, more of like what the game called for outside of it, right? Like the work
Hmm.
ethic that it takes and the film study. And like, that's what I really learned from Coach Owens. He was like studying the game.
Hmm.
I didn't, have my most successful and best careers for Coach Owens, and I still have some like hold a little bit of resentment at times, because I think like, man, if he would have only given me the opportunity, you know,
I was fighting
again,
for it a couple
and,
times there.
and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I got to learn from a guy like Jesse Schmidt, who's one of the
Hmm.
best players I've ever played with. Darius Reynolds when he was young, Marco Thomas when he was there, JJ Raderink, a good friend of mine. So I got to learn from so many great players. And then, turned around in Cleveland in 2014, and they came to us,
Killed
and
it.
I put 4 touchdowns on them. So I said,
Hmm.
that's all I needed, right? Coach kind of came over and he shook my hand, and he said, you've done well for yourself.
I think I remember telling him, I said, that's why you should have played him last year.
Yeah, yeah. I think I told him that too, right? Yeah, man. So there just so many, again, so many great memories, and that was a good one, because that was really like the first time I got to be on the field and be a starter and have something to do with making plays, but just didn't get a ton of opportunities. And really, that's what carried me through. I mean, my first 2 years in Cleveland was, to show him that I could do it. And even if I'm not a guy that he ever thinks about again in his life, I can appreciate him and our relationship for giving me that chip on my shoulder.
And that's definitely not him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he tells a Donovan Morgan story, which, again, Donovan's an amazing guy. I know you've had him on here a couple times, and, I loved, again, great guy, loved playing with him, learned a lot from him. One of the better athletes I've ever played with, but he told a story about him, and he came on the team, he put him on the third string and kept him at third string for the entire time during camp. And then, ultimately gave him the starting position, where he then ended up winning Rookie of the Year. And I kept
Mhm.
thinking, oh, I'm getting the Donovan Morgan treatment, the third team, and then just, just never got anything from there. But,
Right.
it
But
is what it is.
and speaking of, you got to Cleveland and you're killing it, absolutely killing it in Cleveland. But you've got superstars above you on that on
Yeah.
that roster.
Yeah.
Like like had you not been with those guys, I mean, I can only imagine the numbers you put up that year.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for saying that, man. Yeah. Cleveland was, again, I got to figure out a better word than unbelievable, but we got the stars aligned in 2014, right? You
Mhm.
had guys who were pretty well established in Tilo and what am I saying? Goody,
Okay.
Dominic Goodman.
Dominic.
Thank
Dominic,
you.
yeah.
So guys who were established, and then literally everybody else on the team, we were a bunch of losers, right? Like Shane was the backup in Pittsburgh. Deeker was a backup in Iowa.
Mhm.
We had, I'm thinking some of the defensive players who played out of their mind. Mario Norman was a guy who didn't
Mhm.
really have like a huge, like a ton of love going into that. Don, this is a hard word for me. DJ, right? So DJ playing defensive back, like
Mhm.
he was a good player, but he was undersized. He moved around a little bit in college. Nobody really thought he could do it. We were just Willie McGinnis, another one. He was a backup in Pittsburgh. All these dudes were losers.
Well,
And
and that
it
year
was
in the Arena Bowl.
something about that season. Yeah, just
Mhm.
it all came together. And because we had nothing else to lose, right? Like all of
Mhm.
us had been third stringers. All of us had walked on in college. All of us had, and then you pair us up with a guy like Coach Ton, who
Mhm.
is such, I mean, players coach of the players coach, like to the point where where he had so much command of the room because of the respect that we had for this guy, that if he raised his voice, everybody would stop and listen, right? If he cussed, I heard him cuss once in 4 years. Everybody knew that it was something serious, but he was the type of guy who you wanted to win for. Like I would rather win for him than win for me, you know? And then when you put that together, just a bunch of losers, guys who don't have anything to lose, like that's how you put together a 17-1 season. I mean, just amazing.
Well, not just 17-1, but big last second plays.
Yeah.
Like multiple times that season. Like 17-1, but you easily could have been, what, 9-9.
So we had six plays. Not like I've told these stories before, right? We had 6 plays where when the horn went off, we were losing. We had less points than the other team. And by the time that play was over, we had won. I mean, it was just,
unreal.
You couldn't write it because it would sound so ridiculous. Yeah. And then what we did was we made Cleveland a destination for people to come. That's how you get Amari Jackson to come in. That's how you get like, a Quentin Sims, a guy who was released from Arizona, to be able to come to Cleveland. And, you get really good, like big time rookies. You get Devin Wilson in his first year, who's now still, playing really good football out there for West Texas. It's like you get guys like that because people know you come to Cleveland and you're going to win and you're going to be supported by the city. And Dan Gilbert's the owner, and you're going to go to Cavs games, and you're going to, be in the green room with LeBron James. And you're like, how do we get? I'm thinking like, how did a dude from Carmel, Indiana, who walked on at Indiana University and played the wrong position for 3 years, like, how did I end up in this situation, right? But it's like you get to these positions, and then that you ultimately have a place that people want to have success. And then you talk about that year where, I think there's a stat that I've screenshotted right before we played the Arizona Rattlers where they had Rod Windsor and Maurice Purify. I mean, names that I shouldn't even be in the same paragraph as, right? And the stats are right next to Quentin Sims and Collin Taylor. And it's like, we had better stats than those guys, and it's just crazy to look back on that time. And Cleveland was so supportive the whole time. That's why it was one of those things where it was a no-brainer to stay here. So much support, so much love. I'm still so close to all of those fans. I see John Tamborello a couple times a year. Like, he's a very dear friend. He was at our wedding in August. I mean, everybody here is so amazing and so supportive. And I actually just, for the first time a couple weeks ago, started training an athlete who watched me as a player and knew me as a player. Like, he came into the gym and he was like, dude, I think that's CT. And his mom was like, no way. Right. And, they're training with us. And on the way out, he said, I'm sorry, this is probably weird, but like, did you play for the Gladiators? Like, yeah, 2014 or whatever. And mom said he was just watching the game against the Soul last night on YouTube.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And that's so cool to see that finally come full circle and see that there are still people who like really younger athletes, you know what I mean? Who like really love that time that they spent at the Q, man, when we were playing like really big time arena football. And it's just cool to still continue with those connections.
I say, if you want to start feeling old, my little girls, when you were playing in Iowa, are now, let's see, 24. One just turned 24. The other one's turning 26 later this year. So
what does that make me? Yeah. How old am I now?
And my oldest, he just had his first kid. So I'm a grandfather now. So
wow.
Congratulations. So, I got a 4-year-old and a granddaughter. So,
wow. Yeah.
It's quite a wide range.
Hopefully they'll be playing. What was that game on PS1 that you were playing that I saw you streaming the other day? That arena for the Kurt Warner.
Or the
Kurt Warner game.
Yeah. What is it? I can't even think of it. The Kurt Warner PS1 game. Yeah.
Yeah.
That game's crazy.
Yeah. See, I'd never played that one. I did play a couple in college, both the Road to Glory and the other one on PlayStation. I remember those very well. But I never played that other one.
In fact, actually, when the first one came out, I used to play online and the whole nothing connections we used to have back then.
Yeah.
And I'm on The Voice and I start talking to this guy, and I'm here in Kansas City playing. I don't remember what team I was playing, but I'm playing against the Brigade.
Okay.
And the guy I'm playing is one of our defensive backs.
Dude, how about that, right?
So, and that's just what it's about. Again, it's all about those connections, and then, like I said, that's why I reach out to you.
Yeah.
It's I know one. I know you got the voice.
I
I
appreciate
know
that.
you've got the media, the podcast. So
Yeah.
I knew you had the setup. So that, of course, was just absolutely no brainer. But just man, I know I can reach out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Right.
and that's
Right.
and that's awesome. Um, but yeah, that team though. What you beat? It wasn't all three of the Philly games. You beat them at the last
Yeah.
play.
Oh man, they didn't like us very much. Yeah,
I bet
and
not.
so we have that run, right? We
Mhm.
beat Philly in all those games. I then get drafted by Clint Dozel to play over
China.
in China,
Yeah.
right? And I remember that conversation. My mom, who I'm sure is listening, and I'm sorry, mom, to say this, but she was like, "You can't go play for him." Right? Like he doesn't like you. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is this? He's drafted me to, and Clint is I mean, one of the best. Again, I've named what 8 of the best human beings on the planet. He's
Yeah.
another one of them, right? He's
Agreed.
amazing. He and I spent plenty of time together in China. He was incredible. And then he and I both worked on the Kurt Warner movie together.
Mhm.
Zach Levi, who was the lead, had never thrown a football. He, theater guy grown up. And so they hired Clint to teach him how to, you know, no pressure to throw a
Mhm.
football like the greatest arena football quarterback of all time. Right.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Peyton Manning of the
good luck
AFL
with
for
that.
sure.
Yes, right. And so, Zach learned how to do that. And if you watch the movie, right, you'll see all of the times that the quarterback is making the throw, it's one of his 2 stunt doubles, right? So like
Okay.
he didn't learn it to that point.
Mhm.
But he got, he could command a huddle, he could get under center, he could make some calls. So Clint and I spent a couple months together out in Oklahoma City and just had a great time. And again, arena football connections are everywhere. And shout out, what's up everybody on the
I
chat?
say
I appreciate y'all coming in.
yeah, I've got quite a few up in there. It's a bunch of my favorite player I see out there. Oh, where was that? Oh,
Yeah,
there,
that's
out there.
he's biased though, man. That is I have that guy's name. I have that guy's name tattooed on my arm. So he has to say that. Right? That's my nephew who I love dearly, who was actually a reason I got into arena football.
Really?
Yeah, man. It was not him as a 14-year-old like he is now, but it was something. Arena football, professional football was something worth pursuing, right? And all I wanted to
Mhm.
do was have something worth pursuing. And after a couple years of not having a ton of success, it was in Cleveland, or was in Oklahoma City, was in Tulsa, spent a short amount of time in Chicago, bounced around the IFL and all these things. Um, my nephew was born like my last year in college. And I remember thinking, what happens when he grows up and has to ask about something that he wants to accomplish that he doesn't think he'll be able to, right?
Mhm.
What if he comes to me and if I quit and if I stop this before I really write it out, like who am I to be able to tell him to pursue these things that he wants to pursue if I didn't do it?
Fair.
So if it weren't for him and it weren't for my family to continue to push me, it's like I would have never done that because I would have had nothing. It had to be bigger than me.
Mhm.
And I know it seems a bit dramatic, but
No.
these with this with the how like transient the sport is, right?
Mhm.
Every week, and I don't know if everybody knows this, but every week players come in trying to take your spot. And there's only 20, 21, 22 spots. So some random guy could come in my situation in Iowa, Darius Reynolds, right?
Mhm.
Comes in from playing at Iowa State, balls
Yeah,
after
money
two,
went nuts.
dude, so he comes in after makes a team after a 2-day tryout, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, who's the guy he's going to replace, right? Like I'm the one. I've been there for a year and a half, but I'm just
Mhm.
as easily cut as anybody else is. So, you have that happen to you over and over again. You get to Chicago your first year and they give you a roster spot and you call your family and tell them you're moving to Chicago. And then you find out that they were practicing too many players and they lose an active roster spot. Who's the one to go?
Mhm.
You know
It's
what I
always
mean?
up.
So it's like,
Yeah.
so I'm gone just as quick as I got there. So when you go through that stuff enough, you've got to figure out a way to make whatever that goal is bigger than yourself,
Well, and
And so
that's
when
what
you're,
The Rock was doing with the XFL. Was the 54th man, that he was the
oh yeah,
54th man on the roster. And
yeah. He had the jersey and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But
there's
that's it.
always that one guy.
There's
Yeah, you're
always that
good
one
enough,
guy.
but you're the one getting cut this week. That's just how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. And it's tough. And so you go through that enough and it's like, I'm done. It's just like I was in college football. Like I was done
Mhm.
playing college football. Should never been here. My sister talked me out of it. And I don't know how she did, but thank God she did because I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have, been in Cleveland. Like all of these things wouldn't have happened if I just would have quit football because I wanted to. And you go through a lot, man, as a college football and a professional football player that really pushes your buttons, which are things that a lot of people don't get full insight to, So when you have something happen, like a nephew gets born, and then you meditate on the idea of like these conversations you guys are going to have when you grow up, like it becomes so much different than just playing a sport, right? It becomes like this. I want to be a person who can say in confidence that if you want to pursue things, you should, because it's worth pursuing and because you have an opportunity to be successful in it.
Right.
Right. So if it wasn't for him, again, who knows where we'd be? We wouldn't be talking right now for sure.
Fair.
Right.
Fair. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's to say, everybody's got you got to have that motivation in life.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's an internal thing, it's just I got to do it for me, or whether I got to do it for somebody else. You got to have that motivation. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. And I've always kind of pulled from that, and I'm super lucky to have the family that I had growing up, always so supportive, in everything I did. I wanted to be in theater. Mom would support me. I wanted to play baseball. Mom and dad would support me. I wanted to, they would take me everywhere. I had a sister who was super supportive and all that stuff. And, now it's as a husband, it's something that, I wake up trying to be a better human being for my wife. And it's just something that like keeps driving me and keeps motivating me. And it's so, and I feel for the people who don't have that. And I can't imagine what that must, what I mean? Like what that must be like. But I'm just so thankful for everything I've been given, that I'm trying my absolute best to be able to give back.
And honestly, that's always what I've known of you. I mean, just, and correct me if wrong, because it's been, my memory's a little fuzzy. Didn't we have you up for the AFL Man of the Year, the Al Lucas Award one year?
Yeah. So I actually, I won in 2016.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. That was incredibly humbling award to receive. And what I appreciated about that so much is it really had, at least, what I was told, it didn't have anything to do with your play on the field. And that's what I think those are the most important, kind of like accolades and recognition to get, because I played with great quarterbacks. I played with great offensive lines, right? I had guys who would put the ball anywhere, like in my vicinity, and give me the opportunity to do that. And I made plays, and there are other people out there who could have done that,
not that many. I've seen some of those plays.
I appreciate that. But there are guys making plays everywhere all the time. But when they actually recognize your character and recognize the human being you are, I mean, that means so much. It's just a testament to like how I grew up, and my parents and my sister putting their everything into me, and it's like I was so excited. I was so happy to receive that award, because again, it didn't have anything to do with what was going on in the field, but like everything that happens off of it.
Yeah, you mentioned the transient nature of this game, and I don't think that's ever been more on display than it has been this season.
Yeah,
starting out with 16 teams, now down to 9, and I know there's a 7 and 9 Jeff Fisher joke in there somewhere, but
yeah,
these guys, not some not getting paid, some getting partially paid, being in bad situations, having to switch hotels every other week.
Yeah.
It's been a rough year for this league. Definitely some major growing pains.
Yeah, but these are things that you hear about when you're coming up in indoor football, right? So like when I was playing, everybody wanted to play in the AFL. Like that was it. Like you made it once you got to the AFL. And I spent a year in the IFL in Reading, Pennsylvania, and had a great time out there. Met amazing people who I'm still in touch with, and the stories you would hear from low level indoor football were things like that. And everybody says, with the AFL, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And then you get to the Arena Football League and that stuff does not happen. Like you walk into
the same degree.
Arena. Well, so this is, again, I'm talking 2010 to 2019, right? Is there
there's still
there were a few. There were a few things. You go to New Orleans.
Olive Garden game.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. I was going to say you go to New Orleans, and I think the hotel out there was like a 1-star hotel. They'd put you in, and there were bed bugs and roaches all over the place. It's like that was a little tough. But for the most part, the experience. Yeah. But for the most part, people are getting the money, that they signed up to get. and it just it doesn't have that feel. And that was one of my big things, was people would say, throughout the time I was playing, oh, I have buddies who play arena football.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, where do they play? And, say a small market team somewhere. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they
Sioux
play
City. You know,
sure.
yeah.
Right. But they play indoor football,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the league gives athletes jobs who normally wouldn't have jobs, and gives them opportunity to pursue things worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, no, it's not arena football, because something comes along with the title of arena football.
Mm-hmm.
And for somebody, and again, I'm a bit biased because I put so much of my life into it. And so when I hear these things from arena football league players, I just get so hurt for them. It hurts my heart to hear that, because it shouldn't be that way. These are good people who are trying to make a living and trying to pursue a dream of theirs, and just to have these things keep coming up and happening. And we even talked
promises of 4 to 5 times what you're going to make in the IFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
To only come in and, hey, we're going to give you our 250 that we said we'd give. If the league gets around to paying you the rest, good luck.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Right?
It's heartbreaking, because that's not what you want to see.
And I know some really good people who are still in the league, right? Like the whole coaching staff in Iowa, like all of those guys, man. And then I got some buddies still in Albany and some buddies in West Texas. It's like, these guys deserve so much better, and I hope from the new changes that are coming up that they get that, because, I know when I was their age, it's what are you going to do? You know what I mean? You can't, there's nothing you can do about it. And so I'm in a fortunate position to be able to look back on that and just, I can only speak the words, hey, stick with it. Hey, know your value, all this stuff. But I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on there now. So I just hope and pray for the best for not only those guys, but for this league, because I care about this league so much. And I know a lot of people who do. I mean, everybody commenting over here. I mean, just great people. Chris, what's up, Chris? Good friend, and it's like, I know he wants to see high level arena football, man. And I hope we get that.
And I think it's there. I think we hurt ourselves of being gone for 5 years.
Yeah.
The guys that knew how to play this game have all moved on. Not all, but quite a few of them have moved on. The coaches that we're bringing in, most of them don't know the game.
Yeah.
I think that's why you're seeing Billings have the success they're having right now. You got the two Seds out there.
Yeah.
Walker and Bonner. that's. Yeah, and who doesn't want those two?
Come on, yeah, I'll take them. Yeah, you bring up, Scott. You bring up a great point, and I had this conversation with buddies a couple of weeks ago. Man, is that what that 5 years off did was it took all of those players that people recognize and that people know, and the guys that sell tickets, and it took them out. It not only did that, but then it put other players who are not ready to take those leadership roles and those positions of quarterback on an arena football league team, right? Number one wide receiver. These guys, they have no background to be able to help not only the offensive coordinator, but the other players who are in there and say like, hey man, when I'm doing this route, here's what I need for you to do. I don't need you to try to get open. Your goal is not to get open. Your goal is to take the front side corner down so I can run a post over the top, right? But it's like there's just not enough experience there, and all those guys are gone. Some of them are coaching, but you have to have those guys on the field who are able to make those calls.
Right.
And that was kind of like my role towards the end there, like, playing with Tommy Grady, who knew the game so well, and Ryan Cave, and dear friend, rest in peace, Mo Ruffins, like those guys, we were like the coaches on the field. So we didn't need Kiefer Moss out there. Right. But now those guys aren't there, and everything is just a little slower. You know what I mean? Like protections aren't getting picked up. The ball's coming out late. Receivers
I cringe every time the quarterback's in shotgun.
Man,
every time I see that, I cringe. It's like, come on, guys, this is a different game. This isn't the indoor game.
But then that's what I'm trying to say to myself. Oh, maybe that's where the sport needs to go, right? Is this what spectators are used to seeing? So can they, now that an arena football quarterback's in shotgun, are they drawn to it? I don't know, right? Because it's like it's totally out of. I think it's
an experience thing. I think that that as this game progresses, as more people get comfortable in this game, you're going to see, especially on the defensive side, the players getting faster, more aggressive.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when you're in shotgun, you don't have enough time to watch the ball come into your hands, look up, figure out where your receivers are.
Right.
And right now they're all still learning the game on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And really, offense, defense, and the coaches are learning the
Yeah.
game.
Right.
And so as they figure things out, they're going to start taking advantage of those kind of things. So right now, sure, it may be working. I mean,
Yeah.
Salina's been doing pretty well with their quarterback and shotgun. Yeah, great quarterback, but coming out shotgun almost every play.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of just the evolution. The game has to re-evolve.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's a
where
good
we're
point.
at.
You know, I remember some of the best quarterbacks I played with were incredibly innovative with the way that they could deliver passes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when an athlete's in shotgun, there's only so many things you can do, right? Like you said, you got to look down, you got to catch the ball, you've got to set your feet. I mean, there's all these things. It's all a process. I remember, very early on in my time in Tulsa, my first year in Tulsa, we had two quarterbacks. Mike Potts was one of them, the starter, number 16. Had a lot of success there. I feel like I should pull up his name. I will here soon. But these guys were so creative with their releases. I mean, there were plays that you would have a one-step drop, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, nobody teaches that, but you would get the ball, take a step out, throw a screen or throw a hitch. All these things were so fast.
Throw it to a point.
These guys got so creative with how they could release the ball. You just don't see that now because everything takes so long with guys in shotgun. And again, what do? You say, hey, look at this film from 2014, right? Or 2004. And guys are like, that's old. That's on a dusty VHS tape, right? And nobody wants to see that. So here I am, probably like the old man yelling at the screen who's like, oh, you should do it this way, right? So I'm hoping that the game evolves, with the current level of player they have. But again, the league deserves better, man. The fans deserve better. And there are still, I say that by saying, I was just at the Albany West Texas game, and there was some good football.
Phenomenal game.
I mean, there's some really good football played. So it's they're doing some great things, but you need people to be trailblazers and leaders. And I think we're just at a point where we don't have them yet. And hopefully soon they'll kind of make their way to the top, but we'll see.
So speaking of that game, there's a lot of the new rules from when you were playing came into play. You got the deuce kicking it through the upright on the kickoff. You got the rouge getting tackled in the end zone. You got the 3 and 4 point conversions now. Those played huge in that particular game.
Yeah.
What's your thought on these kind of different scoring opportunities now?
Yeah, so I really appreciate what the XFL and now the USFL, right, UFL has done with the game. In giving those opportunities, kind of taking some of the kicking out. No disrespect to kickers, I just think we play a different sport. Some of my dear friends are kickers, but it's not the same sport that they're playing on the field as we are. And I think fans recognize that as well. And there's definitely a role for them, especially with the onside kicks and the kick sixes and all that stuff being important in the game. But it seems like something where they're trying to keep the best players on the field and give them more opportunities. And everybody's favorite NBA Jam cheat code was hotspots. Right. So it's like, okay, I would unlock a hotspot and I hit a 12-pointer. Everybody loves that. So why don't you try that with real human beings on a real football field? Right. And I think it's cool. I think it's dynamic. It challenges then the coaches. Hey, we have to have a 4-point play, right? Because we always had 2-point plays. You had what they called gotta have it plays, right? Fourth and 1, right? 4th and goal. Right, we need to get a first down. We need to score. What's that play we're going to call?
One dependable play, you're going to get every time.
Yeah, no, that you got to have. And outdoor football, it's that 2-point play. Albany hit the 4-point play, which was again a great play by Jake, the quarterback. Rolled out. Defensive back kind of fell off of Phil back there in the back of the corner. And I talked to Phil about after the game. He was like, "Yeah, dude, weren't even paying attention to me." Right. But it was one of those things where that wouldn't have worked in a lot of situations if 2 playmakers didn't show up and make those plays. But it's cool, man. I like that dynamic. I want, again, if it keeps people engaged, that's what our game is about. And people want to see that 4-point shoot, back them up, 6-point play. Score another touchdown on top
Go
of
from
that.
Midfield. Let's do this.
Go for midfield. Yeah. See what I even saw in that game. Wasn't the West Texas first kick a drop kick?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's done a lot of drop kicks this year.
Yeah.
Now that was an old rule, just nobody did it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, Chris Deeker used to do that in
Mhm.
practice in 2014, and we always talked about getting an opportunity to try it, and we never did. But that was the first time I'd heard about it. But I don't think I've ever seen it in a game like that. But that's cool. I
Yeah,
didn't know he had done that before.
you can rack up some points, you know, if you're good enough at it.
Yeah, and is that
And
another
even then,
two?
yeah, it's two.
Is that two?
So
Yeah, come
yeah,
on.
so I mean, if you make 50% of them, you're not off.
Right.
You know, so you make 51%. Now you're in the lead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Well, and you talk about that with onside kicks, right? It's
mhm,
like you just got to get every other one,
mhm.
right? And if you do, you're the best in the league, right? And that's another. I mean, Clint Dozell thing, unbelievable. He was kicking at me the entire Arena Bowl
Tommy
in
Freevert.
2019. Yeah, man, it was terrifying. All
Mhm.
those big guys running down, with a full head of steam, trying to rip my head off.
And that's just it. You got to have the hands guys there, but you also
Yeah,
in the front,
yeah, but I also need Timo there to to protect my neck.
right?
But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's like that's what we want to see as fans, as we want to see points. So I'm all here
Mhm.
for it.
So I was actually at a TAL game last night or last weekend at the Kansas City Goats, and they put up 77 after starting the first quarter slow.
Really,
So
there are
that
ways
league,
to do it.
it's yeah, that league is basically full contact flag football, 6-on-6.
Okay,
I mean, there's essentially no linemen, really no defensive limitations.
okay,
It's an interesting game. It was a good time, but yeah, they put up 77 after starting out slow.
yeah,
So now they got Rakeem Cato as a quarterback. They got Larry
okay,
Beavers on that team.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
that's
There
where
you go,
Tyus
Freddie.
ended up. Yeah, yep.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember Cato. He was a player. Larry, obviously good talented player doing it. He's gonna keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Big time player. Yeah,
So
man.
yeah,
Wow.
they're kind of I think they're kind of overclassed for the rest of that league, but
Yeah, I could
but
understand that.
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, heck
I
yeah.
mean,
And people go to see points.
yeah, and they don't
Yeah,
even
I'm
have
here for
kickers at
that.
all. They have a throw off, which is
See, right? Again, it's like pretty easy to substitute.
Mhm.
And again, if that's more fun. The other thing is though, if you go and play in China, right? So we had that
Mhm.
league in China we were talking about in 2016. They loved kickoffs.
Oh yeah, they did.
They lost their mind. And the kickers were the most sought after players on the field. We're like, why are the kickers signing all these autographs? They just thought it was so cool when it went up in the air and it
Mhm.
bounced off the net. So, hey man, you don't want to take it away from their game, if
I
that ever
told
happens again. But
Yeah, I've told the story on the show before, but I remember getting on the VPN and getting into the Chinese YouTube to watch the games at 3 o'clock in the morning,
yeah.
and just listening to the crowd. Just, oh, every time the kickoffs,
Yeah. Yeah. Every time it
They
kicked
couldn't care
off.
about the rest of the game.
Yeah. It was
Man, those
man,
kickoffs.
what an experience. Yeah, that was so fun. My parents used to have little get-togethers at the house at 7 a.m. or something like that. People bring
Hmm.
over breakfast foods and watch the games, and that was a great experience.
I've never heard one negative thing about China. That whole experience from everybody I've talked to, it's been amazing from what I'm hearing.
It was so well done. It was so well done, and the relationships that we built over there were ones that will last a lifetime. My favorite part about it was every import American player lived with a domestic Chinese player.
Oh
Some of
wow.
them spoke the language, some of them didn't. We actually went over in two separate times. So half of the league got over there, I think, the night before, and then the rest, the second half of us came over. So we were getting text messages from those guys that were, not super positive. Hey man, I'm in this room with this guy. He's going to the bathroom with the door open. He can't speak my language. He doesn't understand anything. Right. So we're all going over there like, oh my gosh, what is this experience going to be like? And, we get over there and I walked into the room and my roommate, Tsunami is what we called him. Sue was his name. He's on his phone scrolling through and I go, okay, a lot of the guys don't speak English. Let me try my best. And so I walked in the door and I said, I'm CT. And he was looking at his phone. He just like kind of looked up at me and I go, oh man, how do I say this? And I was like, CT, right? And I'm trying to tell him what my name is. And he looks up from his phone and he goes, bro, I know who you are. I've watched all your highlight films. And he's like, I think you're the man. And I go, whoa. He goes, he's born and raised in LA, like speaks
Oh,
perfect
nice.
English, better English than me. Just like an amazing dude, man. And so like
Right
that
on.
was how my whole trip started off. And then we went down in history as the greatest Chinese Arena Football League team of all time. 6-0,
There you
no
go.
losses, won the championship. Then they never went back. So can't
There
take
you
it from
go.
us.
So that was year 2, right? Did you go year 1?
So the first year was just the All-Star game,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? There was the All-Star game, and then they
So I
went
went
to
to that in Hawaii. I went to
oh
that game
yeah,
in Hawaii.
I did not get the opportunity to go to that. But I went that second year. Yeah.
That's the only time I've been to Hawaii. I was like, y'all need to hold another game out there so I can go make another trip.
Yeah, it was. I bet that was unbelievable. I bet
Oh man,
from all my guys who were out there said it was great.
I remember. So we're in Hawaii, right? And we're hanging out at the beach. Kind of like the first night we're all there, and my wife and I went out to the farmers market, picked up some random dragon fruit and just weird things that you
Sure.
don't get here in the States too
Yeah.
easily. And so we brought it out to the beach and like, hey, you guys want to try this? And it was so funny to see the reactions of the different players. Some are like, oh, I ain't touching that. What, that looks weird. And other guys like, hell yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Win and
drastically
roll.
different.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Yeah, everybody's got their thing. Again, another great thing about the league, man, and about the sport. It just like brings people together from different backgrounds, man. And you learn so much. It's just so cool. It's so cool. I love it. And you're forced to be with them. You live with the guy and you spend time with them and you travel with them. And it's just like all these stories. Again, I feel like anytime I get to talking about the Arena Football League, I could do it for hours. I just have so many great memories about it, man.
That's the biggest problem with this show is you get folks on there and we're all just like, man, this is the game. This is
Yeah. I'll try to keep it. I'll try to keep it short. I know my wife is hungry and wants to have dinner.
right.
But yeah, man, it's great, dude. Great memories.
Well, you know me, I rode the refs hard all the time because it's why not?
As you should. Yeah, as you should.
I found myself in Hawaii on an outrigger with the entire reffing crew for the All-Star game.
Really?
And so, or not, was outrigger? What are those little boats are, little with the pontoon on the side?
Yeah, that's what I imagined. I didn't.
Yeah, and so we get out there, and the guy's just like, okay, you guys got to row hard, and here I am with all these like 60-year-olds on this boat. Sure. and they're just doing their thing like, come on guys, we gotta if we're ever gonna make it back, we gotta
go. Heard the man. Yeah, row hard. You heard the man.
So yeah, I'm like oh, I guess I'm stuck with you guys today. So,
yep, here we are. And then meanwhile the professional football players have taken laps around the around the island.
But no, like I said, just all those kind of experiences, things that I've never I never would have had the opportunity to do. Had it not been for this league, I know, and I can only imagine the endless things that you got exposed to. Again, I know what I've been exposed to, and it's been incredible. And I've hung out with billionaires.
Yeah,
never in my life would that have happened.
Right, man.
So I mean, it's just incredible, an actually incredible deal. So let's get to some of the news. Because again, we could do this all night. So. All kinds of cool stuff being announced the last couple of days. So we got Gary Compton coming on, director of football operations. That was just announced, earlier today. The guy's a legend. I don't know how familiar you are with Gary.
Yeah, man. I just read up on him a little bit. I wasn't super aware, unfortunately, and I kind of try to hang my hat on knowledge of the Arena Football League game, but that's this looks like a move in the right direction.
But yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's going to be. So he's just basically just keep the boat going, making sure we don't have game skipping, make sure we've got a solid schedule, which I think we finally have a schedule for the rest of the year. Arena Fan's done a great job of compiling it. It is also on the league website, but you do have to go to stats for some reason. If you go to schedule, it only shows this week's schedule. They'll get it figured out. If that's the worst thing on the website, I can deal with that.
Right. Now we know.
But yeah, if you go to stats, you can see all the future games, what's scheduled. So far, it looks like no one's going past week 10 beyond postseason. Still waiting to get that confirmation as to what the Arena Bowl date's going to be, if it's still going to be on the 20th, if they're moving it back. But as Chris says, we need Arena Bowl info. We're all trying to plan. Yes. We're all trying to be there. So
tell him, Chris.
So so hopefully we're hoping we're going to get that real soon. But yeah, so Gary Compton, I mean, he's a legend in the game. Hopefully we'll get like I said, just get our schedule going, get everything just working in the right direction, which is, from the game day side of things. So yeah, super excited to have him. That was one of the news. The real big one I think that's kind of turned everybody's heads came out yesterday. And that's Jerry Kerr's coming back.
There he is.
And I know you know him well. You got a lot of history with him.
Yes.
Good friend of mine as well. Love the guy to death.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't think they could ask for a better person.
And I think they've tried. I mean, I think they've tried. They've tried and haven't found it. And he is the guy, right? Like I've seen the original description of the sport on the napkin that he wrote it on. So it's like this guy, he needs to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Kurz needs to be involved in.
You got Foster, Nero, and Kurz. Foster gets a lot of the credit.
Yeah,
but Nero and Kurz have been with that from the very beginning.
Yeah,
all three of those guys. That's why there was the Kurz Trophy and the Nero Trophy at one point, and then the Foster Cup being the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
They're legends. Again, people that know this game inside out, have the connections. Now between Jerry and Fisher, well, Jerry's already worked out deals with NFL Network, so he knows how to navigate those waters. Now you got Fisher as our commissioner, who again has all those NFL connections. Mm-hmm. Between the two of them, I think I have nothing to base this on other than my own opinion. I have a feeling the Arena Bowl will be on NFL Network, and I'm literally going off nothing else other than my own thoughts. But
I mean, if you're going to put a game on there, it should be that one.
So that's my guess. Like I said, if I had to just put random money on some random thing to happen, that would be it.
Yeah, sure.
So again,
see if DraftKings is taking those bets. Yeah.
So I'm not guaranteeing anything. There's no inside info on this one. Just from what I know of the people involved, that would not shock me to see something like that happen. Maybe even as far as playoffs. I'd be all right with that. Let's just get our foot back in that door that we were supposed to be in all season.
Yeah, I was going to say I was excited to hear it about the beginning of the year when they had announced it. I was really excited about that, man, for the game, for the fans, for players who I still know. I mean, I thought that would be so cool. So hopefully it ends up working out.
So yeah, like I said, I've got no inside info on this. I'm not, again, it's not even a rumor. It's just something that's in my head. So don't run around saying, "Oh, Slasher said this has happened." No.
But if it happens,
where you heard it here first.
Yeah, you know where you heard it from.
So I mean, having Jerry back, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. We needed somebody with that historical background that knows the feel of the game as much as anything else and how the game's supposed to be.
And he knows how to talk about the game too.
Yes.
I mean, he wealth of knowledge, knows everything there is to know about arena football. Yep.
Yeah. He genuinely loves this game. I know there's some folks that don't have the highest opinion because of some decisions that were made back in the day, but there's no questioning the man's love for this game.
Right.
So, like I said, I know you have any, I don't know if there's anything. I know you and him have known each other for quite a long time. I know if you had any stories or anything you want to pull up on there. Or
yeah. So, for people who don't know, his son Matt is a very good friend of mine. Matt and I both walked on at Indiana University together. We both played safety together. We lived together for a couple of years. We actually interned in the AF2 together as juniors in college. So had great experience. Had dinner with Jerry many, many times. And all he talked about was arena football. I mean, just loves it in the deepest part of his soul. And I had so many great encounters with him because he saw me from the very beginning when I was, just a walk on nobody at Indiana, to where, we end up in a couple Arena Bowl championships, and he saw the whole thing, and he never changed, and it was just so cool to be able to give that to him after him being the one to kind of push me in this direction. And his son didn't pursue it. His son's very successful and does some other things. And, and
was involved with the league for a while there as well.
Involved with the league for a little bit. Yep. And, there were some other players from Indiana that he was able to pull in and move around and all that kind of stuff. But I've spent tons of time with Jerry, and I love him. My family loves him. Again, I think he's an amazing guy. And again, I do know there are people who dislike him for some decisions. And when those conversations would go on in the locker room, I would just back off because I'm biased, you know? And so I wouldn't ever say much about that, but I think this is such a positive move, and it's good to see him in the game that he helped create and he loves. So I think it's a really positive move.
Yeah, we talk about relationships in this game and how it's so important. There's a lot of folks that the reason they're playing in this league and not in the NFL is because, this is totally aside from Jerry, but is because they got involved in something. They did something in college they shouldn't have done and got a bad mark and a reputation, but it's how you treat people.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of people that are like, you know what? Yeah, he's got some demons, but he's always treated myself and my family amazing. Those are the kind of guys. That's what matters. And eventually you can work your way past those demons.
Yeah.
And those things that kind of held you back. And that's why this is such a great place. It gives you that opportunity to kind of work through, some of those things.
Yeah.
It gives you that second chance that, you wouldn't have had otherwise. So
yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. And that's something that, I've learned a ton from my wife is from being a social worker is hearing those stories of individuals and being able to overcome such difficult things, and from my background, it was always like, oh, just work harder. You know what I mean? Like, what's the deal? What's wrong with you? And not everybody comes from those same situations or those backgrounds. And she's been, so powerful in inspiring my growth as a human being. And, I was with so many of those players for so long. And she's able to kind of put that all together and make it make sense to me. Again, another reason why we need the AFL to be successful. And we need the AFL to be a place that people can go and kind of like change original thoughts about them and mistakes that they made when they were super young. Like, you can't, blame anybody for that kind of stuff.
Well, I think about a buddy of mine from high school.
Place.
Yeah, a buddy of mine from high school. He won the state championship in California in pole vault. The guy was a 17-foot pole vaulter in high school. Like, phenomenal. Got the college scholarship, got in there, got caught smoking something he shouldn't have been, lost it all. And there were no second chances.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
And that's where this is just great. You get those guys that, hey, D1, D2 didn't want them. They play community college, and all of a sudden, hey, there's a star here. We're turning heads. It's about getting that exposure. So, and
so like we're counting on you, Jerry, by the way. Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah. So Jerry, turn it all around. It's all on you.
No pressure, brother. Yep. All on you. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so again, it's all about those relationships, and like I said, and the love of the game. The love of the game. When you love the game, it shows.
Yeah.
It's Coach James is one of those. You were one of those where it's just it's beyond. Yeah, you're coming out there. Yeah, you're getting a paycheck. Yeah, you're getting some exposure. But when you genuinely appreciate the game, it completely comes across. And he's one of those guys that's on that list. Dozell, another one you mentioned earlier, 100% loves this game.
Yep.
And I know he's busy at his alma mater coaching there.
Yep.
I hope in some capacity we can get him back.
Right.
We need people like him in this game.
Yep.
Steve
Tunn's another one. He was around in every arena football game since the first game in 1987.
Yep.
Another one who just
Coach O threw the first touchdown pass in league history.
Come on.
I mean,
come on. We got to give him a league to want to come back to,
And I think with these signings, with these announcements the last couple of days, and Fisher's as the commissioner, I think we're heading in the right direction to finally rebuild that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want it to be all the good old boys.
Right.
Because I think there was something. I think we had something good with these young coaches and new guys in. I think I look at the coaching staff in Iowa. That was a great setup. I want to see. I want to see more of these young guys getting their chance, but we still need some of that old guard to kind of pepper it in there and keep some of this all together.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, I think it's sad to see what's happened up to this year. And if I had to grade the season up to this year, it's a D at best.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last 2 weeks are starting to get a little bit better, especially this week. I think we're seeing a lot of improvements this week. So I'm I'm feeling it.
Yeah,
Ed,
good.
Ed brings up a good point. You don't miss David Baker. I do and I don't. I don't know how much you remember the David Baker era, but
It was short.
yeah, I mean, it was big, just like him.
Okay.
Just like him, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
big.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, again.
So he took us into 2008 with
Okay.
the league folded in 2009.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I was gonna
David
say
Baker,
I never played under him, but
right?
I knew the name.
And he also ran. He most recently ran the NFL Hall or the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
That's right.
But he did something great for this league in that he got the league to where the franchises were worth a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is he got it to where the franchises were worth, in quotes, way too much.
Mm.
He inflated that bubble so high that when 2008 came around, the bubble popped.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, oh, these franchises are worth 25, 30, 50 million. No, they're worth 5.
Mm.
It's like, nice thought, but no, it's not
Yeah.
worth quite that much. So I appreciate what he did. He got the exposure, NBC and on shows like Las Vegas and Reba and tons of exposure, and it was great. And
Mm-hmm.
guys were there were players making 6 figures.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's great, but at the cost of the whole league.
Yeah.
So I think there's a balance to be had. So there's a lot I do miss about David Baker. There's a lot that really hurt with David Baker, So, he.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, they talked about the glory days of 2008, and like, yes and no. The glory days of 2008,
Yeah.
the league was on it was a brink of collapse because they overinflated everything. So, yes, I do miss it, and no, I don't. Mike Lewis, step in the right
Good answer.
direction. So,
There you go, Mike. Yeah.
I say I know Mike there.
Again, one of the greatest, man.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Lewis, unbelievable. Yeah, he could. I would hate to be the quarterback in a league that Mike Lewis is playing in.
Mike's another one on the short list to get on this show too. So yeah, we're definitely going to get him on here. Well, let's keep rolling. Because like I said, I know your wife's hungry. We don't want to keep her around and make her angry. So, real quick, the recap of last week's games. Phenomenal games, just across the board.
Yeah,
Billings, I think, proved that they're legit. Going up against West Texas, and that West Texas team's no joke.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I was very surprised when we showed up in Albany a couple weeks ago, and that roster came out on the field. I was surprised how many big time players they had. They had a couple young kids who I hadn't seen play before who were really impressive, and then some other guys who've been around the game for a long time, and then a guy like James Romaine calling the defenses. I mean, he's one of the best players I have ever played against.
Yeah, that should have been
any
Iowa.
level. What's that?
That should have been Iowa.
Yeah, you're right. Again, another reason why I was saying, everything up in Iowa looks so good. But yeah, I mean, West Texas is tough, man.
Siegfried knows the game. I mean, he came through here in Kansas City and turned this team around.
Yeah,
absolute loser to a playoff team in 1 year with him as our offensive coordinator.
Man,
he got caught by that 4-point rule the other day at that game.
Yep, that is the truth.
Another one, he's like, he didn't even catch it. Again,
yeah,
there were multiple people scoured the book and missed that line, those 2 lines in the rule book that said 3 points and 4 points.
Hey, now they'll never forget it. That's the truth.
And good on Albany,
right?
For catching that and taking advantage of it in the right time. And then I think the dagger was getting the Rouge to actually end the game. I mean, that's heartbreak right there.
Yeah.
And on a re-kick of all things.
Right. Oh my gosh. How about that? Yeah, it was an exciting game, man. Yeah. And we had talked to the special teams coordinator, Brandon Cisse, after the game. And he said, that's all
another legend,
another great guy. But yeah, he had said that was, they'd practiced that they had talked about, kicking it off the net and tackling him in the end zone. They talked about that week. They talked about a 4-point play. I mean, it's like they had all those conversations, and it was one of those games where you needed it all.
So let's say they don't get that Rouge. Time expires, tie game.
Yeah.
Well, the new overtime rules are sudden death. So first point wins. What do you do now knowing that there's a deuce out there?
Yeah.
That What do you do? Coin
Well, yes.
toss. You win the coin toss. What do you do?
Oh man.
I mean, I guess one is how good is your kicker?
Yeah. Right. How many have they hit? Yeah. Who do you got? Do you have Aaron Petrie 2014 who makes every game winning kick? Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean, that's a very hard kick to score on. And we didn't see many of them that game. Man, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. I mean, I think you got to take the ball, but
Yeah, they kick that ball through the
jeez.
upright. Game over. You never got
Yeah.
to touch it.
Yeah, and then you're the stupid one for not kicking, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, man, that's tough.
yeah. It's when I first read it was sudden death. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. I was so angry,
Yeah.
and I started thinking of the strategy that goes into this. It's like, man, that's ooh.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the
Yeah, you
other
got to
thing is,
meditate on that for a while. Yeah.
well, the other thing is if you go for you go for the deuce, and you kick it under the crossbar, the receiving team gets a point. Game over.
Jeez.
So there's so many variables, or you accidentally
Yeah.
kick it out of bounds. That's a point for the receiving team.
Yeah.
Game over. So there's so many variables to that. Where I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think you have to take the ball and hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
Hope he doesn't gut it through the uprights. But again, I think it depends on your kicker. You just got
Yeah.
one of those beastly kickers that constantly can go, can nail that.
Mm.
You know, all right.
And
Let's
we'll
go
see
for
what they
this.
do if it comes up. Right.
Yeah.
You
Well, and
see
it
what
did. And it did in
all
week
six of
one.
these teams are thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, and in week one it did, and that was I don't know if you happen to watch that way. Again, Albany was it Orlando went to overtime in the first week.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, phenomenal game. Again, should have been on NFL Network. Would have been off the charts.
Yep.
But they went from scoring a ton of points the entire game to almost running out of time in the overtime quarter. So no one scored.
Wow.
So
Yeah. Defense has
again,
stepped up.
we've had some dogs this year. Don't get me wrong. We've
Mhm.
had some teams scoring 12 points, 13 points, 18 points, absolute dogs.
Yeah.
But we've also had some really, really good games this year.
Yeah.
Again, this week's a good showing of it. 3-point difference in Dodge City, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
West Texas at home losing by
close
7.
ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to see. The Southwest Kansas game, that's another one. Salina tied it with a 4-point. They tied it with a 4-point conversion, but they had just too much time left on the clock. Southwest Kansas goes down, kicks a field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can
game,
do.
Huh? Right.
You gotta
Part
play
of the
that
game.
clock. And I think that's also too the experience of the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You got great coaches actually in both those teams. They're both great guys, know what they're doing, but they don't know the AFL game.
Right.
And again, that's where the progression of this game I think it's just going to take a little while. It's got to re-evolve. So all right, so go ahead.
I was going to say I think it'll happen. You just give these guys enough opportunities, man, and it's going to happen.
Give them time.
Give them some years under the belt. Nashville's got some players too. Nashville's got some good guys from the AFL who are on their way up. And man, yeah,
and a coach that knows the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's struggling. He's unfortunately known to struggle a little bit at times, but he knows the game. Yeah, if it comes down to a decision that needs to be made, and the history of the game, if it comes down to a close game, I want to give it to the coach with the experience. That's what it comes down to.
Right, always.
So 2 unbeaten still, Albany and Billings, definitely the class of the league. Mm-hmm. And then you start dropping off a little bit. Orlando's a big surprise at 3-2, but Orlando, I think they've played West Texas twice now. They played Albany once. They played 5 games, and their games have been brutal opponents. They have not had
strength of schedule is at the top of the league, huh?
And West Texas is right there, 3-3. I mean,
yeah,
you can't tell me West Texas is a 500 team.
Yeah, I'm shocked after seeing that team a couple weeks ago, man. Yeah,
but again, they've gone up against.
I don't see any world they're 3-3.
Yeah, but they've gone up against great teams.
Yeah,
they lost to Albany, they lost to Billings. I don't remember what the other loss came to. I want to say it was Orlando. Might have been Albany again. But again, what's going to be real interesting is how the playoff structure is going to be. Who's going to be which one of these good teams is going to be left out? because someone is going to be left out of this postseason. And
Top
man,
four?
we honestly, we don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
we genuinely don't know. I don't know if it's top four. I mean,
Interesting, man.
if they keep the Arena Bowl where they originally said it was going to be, then we should have 2 weeks of playoffs, providing there's no bye week.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, top four would make sense.
Yeah, that would give you 4. Yeah.
If they decide, hey, we lost too many teams, we're just going to do, the top 2. That's going to hurt. I mean,
yeah, that'd be tough. I mean, you gotta. Geez, I think you got to give. You got to give 3 and 4 at least to swing at it, right? I mean, 2018, right? Anybody who remembers those playoffs, we lost best of 2. Or what? It was like going to be a best of 3 series to.
It was total points over
total
2 games.
Points. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you what, I love that.
Yeah, sure. Share. Yeah. Try to lose in the total points. Yeah. I mean, that was gnarly.
But it made the games, the first game, I think in the first week of that, both games were blowouts. Like they weren't close, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And
so I'm trying to remember too.
Yeah,
Why
and the second week, all of a sudden it wasn't, it was almost a blowout in the other direction. Like they got interesting.
Yeah. Because Washington had to beat us by a pretty decent amount. And it was decent, in this game, like 9, 8,
right,
something like that. Yeah, man, that was.
Yeah, but it actually got interesting when you thought it would have been just a boring one game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. And then the championship game ended up being good. So yeah, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean we'll see. It kind of is what it is, but yeah, it was a lot of fun that year.
Yeah.
But anyway, so somebody's going to get left out. I feel some really good teams going to get left out.
Yeah.
My dark horse in all this is Southwest Kansas. I've been saying it all year. They've got some beasts on that team. They got some big boys on that team.
I haven't seen any Southwest Kansas this year.
Their biggest thing again comes down to experience.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of outdoor guys and an outdoor coach. I was hoping they'd come along a little quicker because it is such a short season. Now we're talking less than 10 games for each team.
Mm-hmm.
It's even shorter now. But they're going to be tough. I mean, if they can sneak out a couple of these last, I'm not sure who the rest of their schedule is, but if they can sneak out a couple wins at the end of the season, they might be up in the playoffs. And you know how that goes. Just one bar. I mean, Clint Dozell knows how it goes. One bar ball, and
that's it.
And it's over. It doesn't make a difference how good you are.
Yep, that is the game.
So, yeah, just an interesting breakdown though. Like I say, you got I want to say it's have and have nots, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Because even some of the halves are struggling because of the way the schedule's played out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Orlando's not a 3-2 team. West Texas not a 3-3 team. It's just that's who they've played.
Yeah.
So, the rest I think's kind of fallen where I thought it would. I kind of expected a little more. I mean, I can't say a little more. They're 3-2, and third in the league is Salina.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Iowa dropping out, I think it elevated Salina's position.
Mm-hmm.
Because of I think overall, Kansas, that Kansas region is not weak, but again, from an experience standpoint, I think they've got the talent to get ahead of the inexperience on the other Kansas teams.
Yeah. Inexperience in this game is a very tough thing to overcome.
Mm-hmm. So, and I'll tell you what, and I've said this on a couple shows too, Salina's, for all everybody's like, oh, there's 3 Kansas teams. What a joke. Tell you what, you go to Salina, the crowd's into it. They have ads covering the entire building. They're doing things right.
Good.
I'm they're going to be playing Washington this week, which is actually, I'll go to the next screen here. That's the game I'm going to be at this week is against Washington. Washington struggled. Another team trying to learn the game. They've struggled a little bit. I think it's going to be more entertaining than the record show. But I'll tell you what, that Salina crowd's going to be into it.
There you go.
I'll say those Washington helmets are top tier.
Yeah, tough.
You seen those?
Yeah, I mean, I like the logo.
Well, the whole helmet is the front of the wolf,
and
it's slick.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is like 90s, 90s Dixie Cup color,
Okay.
But it's
I'll have
it's
to.
it's
I'll look
slick.
that up.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
very
that.
slick. But what do you think? I think if I'll just across the board, I think the home team's got it this week.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
where
what you
I'm at.
said. I mean, I think that Nashville, and again, I know some of the guys in the receiving core out there in Nashville and who are very good, very talented players. So I've been liking Nashville a bit. But again, I haven't seen Billings play, and you've talked about they've been pretty good all year.
Okay, you got the
Um,
Seds, so
yeah. So that's
Walker and
that's gonna
Bonner,
be
you can't
tough.
count that out.
Yeah, and Albany's consistent. They figure out ways to win. West Tech. That was
I just think
again. I've said
Albany's
it a couple
due.
times. Heck of a game.
I think Albany's just due for a loss.
Yeah. It's got to
But then again, I
happen.
said that about your Cleveland team that went 17-1. So
Yeah, didn't everybody? We did. We're like, when are we gonna lose? Like, we should lose at some point. Yeah.
so I mean, I just think Albany's due. They're playing not again. They aren't playing bad, but they're playing close.
Yeah.
And close eventually catches up to you.
Yeah. Man.
So,
Okay, Charles. Well,
Charles Billings is
that's a
scared.
couple of you guys saying it now. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I mean,
Have to
again,
tune in.
it's just and actually at the beginning of the season they signed Southwick. We thought Downey was going to be their starter, and he didn't end up being the starter. So
Danny South, is he still there?
I think as far as I know, roster's unfortunately been a little difficult to keep up with this season. So
wow,
as far as I know, he's still there, but I haven't heard otherwise.
Danny Southwick.
And you talk about
one
journeyman.
of the goats, man.
Yeah,
you said journeyman.
Yeah, he's been everywhere. Absolutely
everywhere.
I want to say I looked up his wiki and it had like 17 or 20 teams.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I spent a short amount of time with him in Cleveland. Always had that briefcase. I never saw that briefcase open. He always carries a briefcase around. Danny, he great guy, man. So many people love Danny Southwick. What a name. That's awesome that he's still out there doing that.
So yeah, I mean it's gonna be an interesting end of the season. I mean it's I'm excited to see how it plays out. We've got, and again, we got to talk about the haves and have-nots. 4 teams. If we do 4-team playoff and not just a championship bye week, Arena Bowl, those could be some real good games.
Yeah. Something could shake. Something could happen.
Yeah, I mean, you get another West Texas Albany matchup, in the playoffs, and I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and we'll see. I'm interested to see how, like you said, you like the home teams. I'm interested to see how that Albany West Texas game goes now.
Yeah, I mean, if Albany wins, don't get me wrong, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, right.
But like I said, I think they're just due, and West Texas. If there's going to be a team that's going to do it, it's going to be West Texas.
Yeah,
especially again after that last game, Siegfried's he's going to want a little something after that last game.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, now that everybody's figured out all the rules.
Yeah, you can't hide that one under your basket.
Yeah. Can't hide that on the 4th sheet of the call sheet. Yeah, I'll be interested to see after the weekend how it shakes out.
So, preference, all your Arena Bowls have been highest seed. So you got to participate in 2 Arena Bowls at home.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought of that versus a neutral site?
Man, that's a good point. I was in Scottsdale in 2016 it was the Rattlers in the Soul.
Yep.
Right. And
Glendale.
Is that right?
It's Glendale outside the
Glendale. Right.
Where they're playing now.
Okay. But that wasn't their home field. Right. That was a really cool experience, man. I should have prepared. I should have thought about this a little longer. I think the fans deserve to have the top seed host the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think all the love and all the energy that they put into it, I think they deserve that. I think that's tough on some people making them, fly out to Vegas or so. Yeah, it might be fun for the players, right? Like we love that, but I think that's tough. If you have it at home, man, it's like people can really see what that city is worth, especially if it's on ESPN or on CBS Sports or on an NFL network. And
our background right now is the Arena Bowl in Philadelphia.
Yeah, look at it.
It's packed. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, 2014, we sold out 19,000.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like
White shirts on every
people
seat
wanted.
before the game.
Oh, come
Oh, that was
on.
cool.
We had so many pyrotechnics that when I walked out from underneath the helmet that was blown up, it had deflated on top of my head. Like I couldn't, everybody else had to walk around it. I mean, it was that live. Like
Mhm.
I scored a touchdown. I went to throw it up in the stands to my friends and they were in the upper deck. I can't throw that far, and it's like, but you don't do that at a neutral site,
Right.
I think you got to be at home.
By far the crowds are definitely better. I mean, so I've been been to every Arena Bowl since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got quite the streak going on.
Yeah.
So I've been to New Orleans, I've been to Vegas, I've been to Albany, Philly, Stockton, of all places, in my hometown.
How about that?
I've been all around to all these different venues, and yeah, the home games, they bring in the crowd.
Yeah.
But I will say there's something about one, it's nice to be able to plan, know where I'm going.
Yep.
When I went to Albany, I had to buy tickets to go to, if we flew into Newark.
Sure.
Because we didn't know where the game was going to be. And it's like, well, from Newark, we can get to Philly, we can get to Atlantic City, we can get to all these places.
Yeah.
So for me, from planning from a selfish standpoint,
good point. Yeah.
It's nice. The other thing is, and I know we're not at this level anymore, but when we went to New Orleans, when we went to Vegas those first couple of years, there was banners on all the street lights. Mm-hmm. There was a hotel that was set up and decorated and went big. Not just, here's some balloons, here's a poster. It was this, like, especially New Orleans, man, it was all the way down Canal Street. Banners up for Arena Bowl. Man, it felt big.
Yeah.
And it felt exciting, and it was its own event. We actually had a true Radio Row back then, where all these tables lined up and all these different radio stations, and Arena Fan, when I got to know those guys, were just hanging out, just doing interviews, whether it's live radio or recorded. I think there's something about the neutral site, a lot more than you can plan and do things with. I mean,
that's a very good point.
Nashville. I would love to go to Nashville. It's Nashville. Why not?
It's Nashville. Yeah, why not?
I mean, Albany's a nice place,
mm-hmm.
but downtown is dead on the weekends and after 6:00. We struggled to find places to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Schenectady, that's down the road. Scotia, that's down the road, right? I should yell upstairs to my wife to see where else she would send you. But there are places out there.
We had to drive like halfway into town to find a Taco Bell that was still open, I guess.
Yeah. Sure.
So, I mean, again, I liked Albany. Great place, great fans, great atmosphere. But man, dead. Absolutely dead during the evening and weekends. So for a personal standpoint, I love neutral site. Again, it makes it easier for me. But I'm one person. I'm not an arena full of people.
Yeah.
So
whatever brings them.
Whatever keeps this league going. I mean, if I've got to drive at last minute, even if I have to drive to Albany, I'll drive to Albany. If I have to drive to Billings, I'll drive to Billings. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Again, I'm one person, but one way or another, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah. To keep the streak alive. It's a great point.
Exactly. The only one I got close to missing was Spokane. I'm not going to go. It's too expensive. It's last minute. It's Spokane. How do you even get to Spokane?
Yeah.
And my wife messages me and goes, "Hey, I got you a ticket. You're going."
Man, come on.
So
we appreciate that.
So, for sure. And that's why we're still good friends to this day, even though.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but anyhow, hey, I don't want to keep you too long again. I know you got a hungry wife and that is important. Catherine popping in here.
Yeah, there she is.
Yep. Cleveland, Indy, great cities for fan sport. Indy's one place I have not been to a game at, and I would love to.
Oh yeah, you would love Indianapolis, man.
Yeah.
They redid downtown for the 2012 Super Bowl, and it's great. I was born and raised in where Catherine happens to live right now in Carmel. It's my mother. Shout out, Mom. And Carmel's amazing, just north of the city, 30 minutes. Everybody who I talked to, actually, when I was in Oklahoma City, there were a couple guys who played in Indianapolis for the Firebirds before. They went back to Albany. They all said they loved playing in Indianapolis.
Well, and they're getting an IFL team in just outside Indy.
Yeah.
There,
Yep.
so
Yep. There's I think my dad had mentioned that. There's
the
yep,
freight
a
thing
big
or something
sports
like that.
facility out there. Yep, that sounds right. Yep.
Hmm. I can't remember the exact town it's in, but just in one of the suburbs it looks like.
Hmm.
So I'm like,
Yeah, Westfield, Noblesville, something like that. Um
yeah, I can't think something freight. I want to say
hope
it actually even starts with an F as well, but
yeah.
um, yeah, there we go. Arena Bowl in Cleveland. You can call
Yeah.
the game.
I'm here for it.
Again, we got to make that happen. We've got
Yeah.
to get you on these broadcasts.
Yeah. Fishers. Thank you, Mom.
Fishers,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And Fishers. There you go.
yep, yep.
There
So
you
that,
go.
so yeah, we got a couple chiming in there. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, they got a cool little logo. I definitely wish it was an AFL team coming in,
Yeah.
not an IFL team, because you know, uh, I like the smaller AFL that we're doing right now.
Hmm.
I like these smaller venues that we're not having these cavernous arenas that get half full if we're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
Um,
tough to
you know,
play in too.
yeah, Southwest Kansas, their arena, beautiful, beautiful arena, but it's a carbon copy, like a cookie cutter of the one we have here in Kansas City in Independence.
Hmm.
It's the exact same arena that somebody just Control C, Control V in the two cities.
Yeah.
And but it's a good. But seeing the AFL played in that venue, I've seen indoor played here in Kansas City, but I've never seen the AFL played. It works.
Yeah.
We don't have to have Wells Fargo Arena in the background.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I,
Well,
it
in
can be
Albany, we
done.
played at the TU Center,
Mhm,
10,000.
mhm. It worked perfectly.
Amazing place to play.
In Spokane, that was a little
Yeah.
shoebox.
Oh,
That
yeah.
place was off the hook.
Spokane,
You
boy.
know, I mean, Arizona's isn't exactly huge either.
Hmm.
Yeah, at least they used to play in a basketball building, so it's just a little tiny, a little smaller, a little more compact. This
Yeah. So was that where the big I remember
big
now.
wall at the
Where were
end.
we playing? The big wall, yeah, that
Hmm.
they would kick it and it would bounce off of it. Yeah,
Hmm. And they said
that was a fun thing to play around.
what was odd is with that game in Glendale, the Arena Bowl in Glendale, they actually
Hmm.
set the arena up the same way they did downtown, where it was the nets were right up against the wall. Because I noticed this year, now that they're playing in that Glendale arena, it's further away. So it tells me they
Oh, how
could have
about
backed it
that?
up back then, but they didn't. They kept it similar to how it was at their other arena.
Okay.
So just kind of
Huh.
interesting little things. Since they're moving, you get to kind of notice some of these other little
Yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah. You get to see that stuff, and yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, again, I don't want to keep you too much longer. Do you have anything to tell folks out here? What's
No, man, I appreciate everybody who came on. Everybody who's watching, please continue to support the league, man. Support the live episodes. This is awesome. Scott's got some really cool stuff he was showing me before that he's working on. Scott, I appreciate you being so into this and dedicated to the sport and continuing to, share knowledge about it and all the passion that you have for it.
That's because of
Again,
people like you,
well,
100%. I mean,
thank
if
you so
it's
much, man. And like this sport just gave me so much, and I love it with all of my heart and all of my soul. And I love people still continuing to play the sport. I actually got the opportunity to train one of my first indoor football players this offseason. Guy from Purdue ended up in with the Sugar Skulls and then got injured, and he's back doing some rehab. But we got to train. So watching old film, it
Mhm.
was funny. I felt like a Coach Ton back there, just like this in this situation, I would do this, and and you see it happen. It's like, oh, actually learned something while I was there. But it's so fun, you know what I mean? Like this sport again gave me so much. So I so much appreciate everybody who still loves it. And I'm looking forward to seeing this thing continue to stack on and hopefully come back to what we once had, and if not that, like better than what we had. There's a huge ceiling, and so I hope so much that everything works out for everybody, and that that our indie team has some success too. So
Yeah,
I know my family would love to go to the games out there, and I'd love to be out there when I'm out there. So
the
looking forward to
ceiling's
seeing that
high.
too.
The ceiling's high
Yeah.
in this league, I think. And honestly, from where we were a couple weeks ago, we're not going to get much lower.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
Good
know,
point. Only
so,
go one direction.
and ultimately, every sign I'm seeing right now, everything is going the right direction. We're on YouTube, which whether you like YouTube or not, it's at least available.
It's available and you can watch it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so great. We're if nothing else, we now have dependable broadcast.
Right.
That's all we need for the rest of the year.
Right.
We got the right people involved, people that love the league, that know this league and love it, getting them involved. We're going the right direction. And we're finally heading the right direction. So I'm hoping that D that I've got with the league right now by the Arena Bowl at least bumps up a couple grades.
Yeah,
And
come
it's
on.
not getting an A.
Right. We know we're not getting there. Yeah.
But I'd like to at least get to a passing grade here.
Right. Right. And I think so. Come on.
So
Put the energy in that direction.
The hope is there. So, but again, you want to shout out your podcast one more time?
Yeah, man, the podcast. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple. We're also on YouTube, so we like YouTube. But it's called Cutoffs and Coffee, and again, performance podcast where we just talk to high performers and try to figure out what makes them tick. And I steal as much things as I can from them to be a better person and better in my profession. So, check us out if you want to. If not, if it's not your thing, no big deal. Appreciate it. Again, Scott, thank you so much, man, for coming on. Thank you for everybody who chimed in. Again, I told my wife before this, I was like, man, I love talking arena football. This thing might go 6 hours. So, to be only 90 minutes was good. And then, just so you know, we've got another probably 6 hours of content to fill if we need to eventually, but yeah, man, thanks so much for having me on again. I love like remembering these times and talking about it. And I have arena football things tattooed on me and all, and this, they're all over the place. My two favorite jerseys, my wife's dance jersey and my
nice. Oh, we got you stalled out there. All right. Well, I don't know if you can still hear. Oh, are you there? All right. Well, I don't know if you can hear me, but hey, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Collin, if you are still there, hang on for a couple minutes and we'll chat with you. Oh, there we go. We got you back. Yep, you're still a little rough. Anyway, thank you all. Collin, hang on if you can for a minute. And guys, we'll be back next week. And I got a couple things kind of in the pipe, so we should have some good interviews coming up here in the next few weeks. Again, thanks everybody for joining. Collin, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you again next week.
Brother. Happy to be here.